Well, hey guys, Adam here in the Aeroworks hangar, and yes, it's that time to review the most anticipated sequel of all time, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Let's get right into it. No, actually, we're going to be talking about Top Gun Maverick, Top Gun 2 if you will, but it's called Top Gun Maverick. This is a movie we've all been waiting on. If you've been in aviation or been around aviation, I remember being in high school and going to the first Top Gun movie, and you know how many people joined the military after seeing the original Top Gun movie. And at the time, it was probably one of the biggest blockbuster action type movies out there. Awesome flying in it. You know, again, we didn't have all the fancy CGI and everything that we have nowadays. And it was just an awesome movie. I remember buying the VHS cassette tape, and I've probably seen the movie 100 times. And when we got word a few years ago that Tom Cruise was going to be making Top Gun 2, there was a huge amount of excitement, and we couldn't wait until we started seeing some teaser trailers. And then, of course, we know with the pandemic and all, the movie got delayed for over 2.5 years. But Tom Cruise wanted this movie to be played in the theater. He didn't want it to be, you know, an online download or a DVD. He thought that, you know, you really had to experience the power and the sound of the jets in the theater, and therefore he waited and waited. And of course, it was just released this last month on the 27th of, I believe it was May 27th. We actually got to see the movie May 26th. And it was well worth the wait. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the movie. I'm going to do a spoiler-free intro, and then if I decide to start talking about some of the details of the movie, I'll give you a warning. If you want to tune off, you can do that, or you can stay in and watch the whole thing. So let's get into Top Gun Maverick, and we're going to start talking about the movie. So if you've seen, and I'm sure you have, if you've been on YouTube or you've seen any of the trailers or the behind the scenes things, all of the flying in the movie, with the exception of a couple parts, are actually done in real aircraft. Tom Cruise and his team of director and producers basically rented Navy F-18 Hornets at about $11,000 an hour. And they all the scenes you see in the air are actually filmed in the aircraft, so it's pretty amazing. And Tom himself, being a pilot, he's a jet pilot, meaning he flies like a corporate type jet. He's multi-engine rated, instrument rated commercial pilot. He's got a P-51 Mustang. Used to be called Kiss Me Kate. He's not with Kate anymore, but he does still have the P-51 Mustang. In fact, you'll see a little bit of that in the preview and in the movie. But Tom himself, being that kind of go-get-em guy and kind of got to do all my own stunts, decided to create like a flight program for the actors. And the actors actually had to not only endure and learn the effects and how it felt to fly in these jet aircraft,
5 Gs. 6 Gs. 7 Gs.
but at the same time they were using some new camera technology that was going to give a awesome 4K, maybe even 6K picture from the cockpit. But the cameras had to be run by the actors themselves. So not only was Tom Cruise directing and training these guys and going up in the planes every day on how to get used to the aircraft and flying and taking G's and all that, but also how to run cameras, get the shots, because you know these are wide-angle cameras, multiple camera angles. And when you're paying $11,000+ an hour to rent an aircraft, and that in some cases multiple aircraft at the same time, you don't want to be wasting time doing a shot over again. So that was pretty amazing. You can see a lot of that. We'll put some links down below of some of that behind the scenes footage. But what did we think of the movie? Did it live up to the original? And again, when we look back at movies of the 80s and 90s, or at least for myself, you know, when I tell my kids about movies that were awesome back then, I go back and watch them. I'm like, this movie doesn't look that great anymore. Well, of course, technology has jumped leaps and bounds with camera technology, digital editing, digital effects. You know, all that stuff has improved so much. But Top Gun is one of those movies that you know, when you see it come on cable, you know, or on whatever, it's a movie that you can dial into in the middle of it, the beginning, the end, and you just find yourself wanting to watch the whole movie. So do you have to see Top Gun 1 to see Top Gun Maverick? Not necessarily. You will pick up some nuances in the new movie that come from the original, phrases and sayings and little things that the actors do to kind of play tribute to the original actors. Speaking of actors, they do bring back some of the original cast, and you'll be surprised at who those people are. But the actors, the new actors, the young actors are all great. They fit the roles perfectly. Tom Cruise, again, himself, he plays, you know, the typical Tom Cruise action guy that he plays in all his movies. But being a pilot himself, he really brings the aviation aspect to this movie 100 times over. So do you need to see it in the theater? Absolutely. And I'm glad that he waited, because not only is the picture awesome, the picture, you know, seen on the big screen, but the sound of the movie is just something you can't get from a home TV or even a nice home theater system. You really have to experience, and it's not just the jet sounds, it's the G-forces, it's the flares shooting out of the F-18, which you see in some of the trailers. So there's just some amazing aerial cinematography, as well as flying scenes, and there's no really lulls in the movie. You know, we learn the movie basically, and you see this in the previews, this is Tom Cruise 30 years later. You know, he's now a test pilot, if you will, or a kind of a captain in the Navy is still. He hasn't really progressed in his career, but you know, you'll learn why in the movie. And he gets basically tasked with training a new group of Top Gun candidates to fly a mission. And this mission is pretty crucial. It has to be flown a certain way. And so he has a very limited amount of time to train these pilots. And so you get into a lot of the training. There's a lot of awesome flying in there. And the action sequences. And like I said, everything in the movie was filmed in real aircraft. Now, there are a couple scenes, and you'll see these reviews from fighter pilots that you know, are not possible, or it was a little too close. Even in those cases, the aircraft were still filmed. They were just layered together to composite a photograph. But when you see Tom Cruise's face in the plane, or an actor in the plane, and they're banking and cranking and all that, they're actually in those aircraft. And they did several months of flying in the F-18 and other aircraft just to get up to speed on how to handle G-forces and such. And in fact, two of the actors actually ended up getting their pilot's licenses, just being so you know, excited about flying and getting kind of the flying bug from it. So you know, that's pretty awesome, and you can see those interviews of the actors that did that later. So let's get into a couple things that we did and did not like, and I'll try and steer away from the spoilers. Obviously, what did we like? Action-packed movie, awesome flying scenes, awesome sound, real aircraft, awesome soundtrack, bringing back some of the original music, as well as some really cool new songs in the movie. Bringing back some of the original characters along with Tom Cruise himself. And you know, it had a good story. You know, it is a movie, so you know, you have to kind of go with the flow. The action sequences and the mission that they talk about, they don't talk about specifics on what they're doing, where they're going, what country, and all that. It's kind of PC in that way, if you will. Okay, a couple of the cons. Well, there really weren't too many of them. If you see the preview, you'll see that there is a P-51 flying in the preview, or some of the previews, and you'll see Tom and his love interest in the movie flying in the movie. My only con was there wasn't more P-51. You know, there could have been more in there. That's my only con. Everything else was awesome. Tom does actually own that P-51, and he does fly it pretty regularly. So that's my only con. I would have loved to see more Top Gun P-51 in the movie. I will leave a link down. If you do want to see a little bit more of that, you can actually watch a fun segment that Tom did with the Late Show guy, James Corden, I think is his name. He takes him up on kind of like a whole flight training day, which again, I would die for, to fly in the planes that they fly with in that video. But if you want to see more of this P-51, check out that video because they've got some really cool segments. Some of the air-to-air technology they used in the movie was used to film that segment. So as far as cons go, really don't have any. The only con is I can't get back to the theater quick enough to see it again. And then more P-51, but who doesn't love P-51s? But let's get into a couple things. Spoiler-wise, if you don't want to know about the movie or you haven't seen it yet, pause the video, stop the video, and maybe I'll put a time stamp at the bottom and we can talk about when you can come back. But from a spoiler standpoint and having seen the movie, you know, we start off the movie with a spy plane, if you will. Think of it as kind of the SR-71 replacement. This is I believe it's called the Dark Star, if I remember right. But this is a hypersonic, supersonic jet that, you know, Tom Cruise is trying to get up to Mach 10, essentially. So, you know, the movie starts off kind of with that challenge and the aircraft. And actually, the scenes in the movie, at least on the ground, they worked with Lockheed Martin and they actually had a full-size mock-up of the aircraft. So this was not CG or anything like that on the ground. When you see the aircraft on the ground and in the hangars, that's an actual aircraft that they built to shoot those scenes. Now, obviously, flying it's a different story. But another cool fact about that is that if you have the new Microsoft Flight Sim, they just recently added in a whole Top Gun Maverick challenges and flying the F-18 and flying the supersonic jet. So if you have that, check out your Microsoft Flight Sim and update it because you'll get those added in if you have the Pro version. Again, the movie goes on into, you know, training the cadets, a little animosity there between what we now know is Goose's son from the first movie. We know that Goose died in the first movie after they flamed out and got into a flat spin, and Goose hit the canopy and died. And of course, Maverick felt sorry for, you know, felt that it was his responsibility, that he's the one that killed Goose, you know, and eventually got over that. But if you remember in the first movie, Goose's wife had a son, and that son in the movie, the little kid that was sitting on the piano, is now Rooster in this movie. And there's some animosity there between Maverick and Goose's son because of some things where Rooster was held back, but now they've got to work together. And I won't give it all away, but you know, they end up working together to complete the mission. There's also in the preview you're going to see an F-14 Tomcat, which we know that the Air Force, excuse me, the Navy, or any Air Force for that matter, does not fly anymore. We retired those several years ago. I was told that there is one country somewhere that does have a few of them, but we do see a little cameo by one, and I'll save that. You guys can watch that in the movie and figure out why and where that comes back into the movie. But overall, this, in my mind, is a 10 for an aviation movie. It's probably the most accurately filmed, best sounding, most, you know, exciting movie that's out in the theaters. And if you look at the ratings, it's getting like 95, 99, 90, you know, plus in all the Rotten Tomatoes and review ratings. So it's probably one of the highest rated movies of all time. And we've seen that from what it's grossing now. So does Aeroworks and Adam from Aeroworks recommend Top Gun Maverick? Absolutely. Go see it. I can't wait to own it eventually. But I'm going to go see it again in the theater because that's where you want to see it. And I don't have an IMAX theater near me, but I understand that is the way you really want to see it because obviously you're going to get a more wraparound picture. You're going to get even better sound. But even in our small theater in our town here with the reclining loungers and all that and the regular screen, it's an awesome movie to see. So guys, I hope you enjoyed a quick little overview and review. We will leave some links down below. Check out the soundtrack, check out Top Gun Maverick, and if you haven't seen the first one, give it a watch. It will help you tie in the second one, although you don't have to see the first one to watch the second one. because they do a little bit of a recap for you. So again, guys, it's Adam in the Aeroworks hangar, finishing up the Top Gun Maverick overview and review, and we'll see you on the next video.